something doesn't feel right anymore. Every World Cup has controversial decisions. Every tournament leaves one or two nations feeling robbed. But this feels different. Because somehow, every road, every huge decision, every impossible moment, somehow keeps leading back to the same team. Argentina. At first, people called it bad luck. Then they called it coincidence. Now, they're calling it something else. England versus FIFA. And that's exactly why Wednesday's semifinal has become far bigger than football. Because if Argentina receive another huge decision against England, in front of hundreds of millions of people, FIFA won't just have a controversy. They'll have a credibility crisis. So before kickoff, before another whistle changes everything, there's one question we need to answer. Is Argentina simply surviving, or is someone making sure they do? Now, before anyone says this is just another conspiracy theory, let's slow down. Because this nickname didn't appear overnight. It wasn't invented by one angry fan. It wasn't created after one controversial decision. It grew, match after match, decision after decision, until people started noticing the same pattern repeating itself. Argentina weren't cruising through this tournament. Quite the opposite. They were surviving. Barely. And every single time the pressure reached its highest point, something happened. Against Egypt, a stunning goal disappeared after VAR rewound the attack all the way back to a foul almost nobody inside the stadium even realized had happened. Minutes later, Egypt screamed for what they believed was a clear penalty. Nothing. No review. Play continued. Seconds later, Argentina were celebrating at the other end. Egypt were furious. Furious enough to file an official complaint to FIFA itself. Then came Switzerland. The defending champions looked exhausted. Switzerland had all the momentum. They had just dragged the game level. They looked ready to complete one of the biggest upsets of the tournament. Then, VAR stepped in again. One review. One overturned booking. One red card. Suddenly, everything changed. Argentina had another lifeline. Switzerland had another reason to wonder what had just happened. And here's the part that made people stop calling it coincidence. And that's where this story stops being just about football. Because once enough strange moments pile up, people stop asking, what happened? They start asking, why does it keep happening? That's the question dominating social media right now. Not whether Argentina are a great team. They are. Not whether Lionel Messi deserves another World Cup final. Millions believe he does. The question is something much bigger. Does FIFA want it too? Think about the circumstances. This is almost certainly Messi's final World Cup. The biggest global superstar the sport has ever produced. A player whose name alone fills stadiums, breaks television records, and sells millions of shirts around the world. FIFA themselves expect this tournament to generate billions in revenue. So when controversial decisions repeatedly seem to arrive at exactly the moments Argentina need them most, people naturally start connecting dots. Is that fair? Maybe. Maybe not. Because here's the truth. Nobody has produced proof. No leaked conversation. And once fans lose trust in the people running the game, even ordinary decisions start looking extraordinary. And if that's the theory, Wednesday is about to put it under the biggest microscope imaginable. And that's exactly why this semifinal feels different. Because for the first time, Argentina aren't standing across from an underdog. They're standing across from England. One of football's biggest names. One of the sport's biggest audiences. One of the few countries capable of turning a refereeing decision into a worldwide headline within minutes. That's what makes Wednesday so fascinating. Every controversial moment until now, Egypt, Switzerland, Cape Verde, sparked debate. But this is different. Because if another huge decision lands in Argentina's favor against England, it won't stay inside football. It'll dominate television. It'll dominate social media. It'll dominate newspapers. Every angle, every replay, every frame will be analyzed by millions of people looking for one thing: evidence. Whether they find it is another question entirely. But the pressure on FIFA has never been higher. Not because people expect perfection, but because they've stopped trusting in consistency. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. If FIFA gets this game wrong, nobody will ever let them forget it. But here's where this story becomes far more complicated. Because if we're going to question decisions that helped Argentina, then we have to be honest enough to question the ones that helped England too. That's what separates analysis from blind loyalty. England didn't arrive here without controversy either. Against Norway, Jude Bellingham's equalizer completely changed the match. But seconds before that goal, Norway believed the ball had struck the overhead Skycam cable. Their players stopped. Their goalkeeper pointed straight into the sky. Their manager protested immediately. FIFA checked the ball sensor. The technology said, nothing touched it. Goal stands. Norway were furious. England survived. Even Thomas Tuchel admitted afterward, they had been fortunate. So if we're calling out controversial moments, we can't pretend they only happened for one team. Because once both teams have benefited from controversy, the question changes completely. But maybe we've spent too much time talking about referees. Because if this game is decided fairly, then everything comes down to one simple question. Who is actually the better football team right now? And that's where this suddenly becomes fascinating. Because for all the noise surrounding Argentina, England might actually have the stronger team. Not the bigger legend. Not the bigger story. The better team. Thomas Tuchel hasn't built this England side around moments of magic. He's built it around pressure. Constant pressure. Win the ball early. Attack immediately. Force mistakes. Never let opponents breathe. And against an Argentina team that has looked physically exhausted in 3 straight knockout matches, that approach could become devastating. Every extra minute Argentina have played, every recovery sprint, every desperate tackle, England have been watching all of it. Because tired legs don't just lose races. They lose concentration. And concentration wins World Cup semifinals. And if England's biggest weapon isn't Kane or Bellingham, then what is it? But here's the danger. The moment you convince yourself Argentina are finished, they remind everyone why they're still world champions. That's what makes them so difficult to eliminate. They don't need to dominate games anymore. They don't even need to play well for 90 minutes. They simply survive, until one moment changes everything. That's been the story of their entire tournament. Cape Verde controlled long stretches. Argentina survived. Egypt looked like they had them beaten. Argentina survived. Switzerland were pushing them backwards. Argentina survived. And then, one pass. One finish. One mistake. Suddenly, everything changes. That's why England's biggest challenge isn't stopping Messi for 90 minutes. It's stopping him for 91. Because Messi no longer controls entire matches. He controls moments. And World Cups aren't remembered for possession. They're remembered for moments. And that's exactly why England cannot afford a single mistake. So after everything we've just talked about, every controversial decision, every VAR debate, every referee, every conspiracy, it all comes down to 90 minutes. Maybe 120. Maybe penalties. One match. That could completely change how this World Cup is remembered. Because if England win, every accusation surrounding Argentina suddenly disappears. The story becomes, England were simply better. But if Argentina survive again, especially after another controversial decision, then this tournament will never escape the questions. Not next week. Not next month. Maybe not ever. That's why this isn't just England against Argentina anymore. It's England against every doubt hanging over this World Cup. And that's exactly why millions of people won't just be watching the football. They'll be watching the referee, every whistle, every VAR review, every replay, every decision. Because one call might end up being remembered longer than the winning goal itself. So now it's your turn. Forget predictions for a second. I want one honest answer. If Argentina reach another World Cup final, will you believe they earned it? Or will you always wonder, what if?